Hello, good morning everyone, and welcome to day 3 for Dialogue of Continent on the road to Naples 2021. It's a great pleasure to welcome our speaker for this morning sessions. We are going to kick off with some opening remark from our co-host, and after we will start our session 1 on the economics of connectivity. Over the last 2 days, we have been talking about clearly the era of change in terms of global macroeconomics, how clearly COVID-19 has really transformed the world. And it seems to me that what we will be discussing today will have major ramifications about the global financial architecture and the future of globalizations. So I will shift now to our co-host, Henning Vöpel, who will also make some opening introductions. Further to Massimo Deandreis, General Manager of SRM, the Economic Research Center related to Intesa Sanpaolo Group. Massimo, thanks also very much for your support. I think we have to tell to our all hosts and speakers that this conference was supposed to be held in Naples. Of course, due to COVID-19, we have to postpone it, and we look forward, hopefully, that all of us can meet next year in 2021 in Naples, in Italy. It will be a great opportunity to meet, and also that will coincide with an important meeting where Italy will be sharing, the G20, and we hope that that will be a reality for all of us, as I think everyone missed the face-to-face discussions. Henning, over to you, and thanks again for all of you for joining. Thanks, Massimo, for your support. We look forward to working with you again for next year, and I give you the floor, Henning. Thanks.
Thanks, Marc, and good morning and welcome also from my side. So this is the third day's conference and the Dialogue of Continents. And this, of course, is a special day because today we enter, so to say, the road to Naples next year when we can all meet in person, hopefully. And well, as you have seen, we decided to give the conference the title, The Age of Imagination. And today we want to talk about a new era of change. And I think it is important not only to create change, but also to build bridges, right? Bridges to the future, and bridging distances and differences is very important. And it's also the key idea of the Dialogue of Continents. And let me thank Marc and also Massimo for this fruitful and wonderful cooperation. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to do this conference the 4th year, I think, in a row. So that is wonderful. And we are keen and optimistic to develop this conference to become an important platform to continue the dialogue and to create change and to build bridges. So thanks again from my side. And this is where I want to hand over to Massimo.
Thank you very much, Henning. Welcome also from my side. I'm very pleased to take part in this Dialogue of Continents 2020, organized by Reinventing Bretton Woods and Hamburg Institute of International Economics. So it's my side. I thank you very much, both Marc and Henning, with the collaboration for this third day, as has already been said by Marc and Henning of SRM, the Economic Research Center, where I'm the General Manager, and it is part of Intesa Sanpaolo Banking Group, the leading Italian bank and one of the top 4 European banks. We call this day conference On the Road to Naples, as Henning and Marc said, because this meeting was scheduled to take part in the city where I am actually, but due to the pandemic, unfortunately, we all opted for the webinar session, and we postponed the face-to-face meeting until spring 2021. So I really hope we will be all here in next spring. The new era of change is the title of today's session. Let me spend some words on a key issues that are the core of the today program, and that will be also crucial for the Naples event in 2021. I want to focus only on one point. I think there is a red line connecting many interventions I have heard over the last 2 days, and also linking the today 4 sessions. This red line is what I call the ongoing process of the regionalization of globalization, something that is transforming trade, finance, and industry supply chain in the coming years. Globalization is not over. This is my opinion, but it's changing its path. We have clear signs that this process had begun before COVID-19, but it seems apparent that the pandemic strongly accelerated. Looking at ports, logistics, and maritime economy, which is a great part of our research activity in SRM, looking at ports and logistics, as I said, help us to understand the evolution of the global economy, because 90% of the world trade is moving by ship. So if we look at what is happening in the Pacific maritime route, for example, with the drop in terms of transported goods, we have a clear indicators of the worsening of United States-China relations. Or if we look at the last data of the Suez Canal, which is a key indicator of trade relations between Asia and Europe, we see, at least in the last 9 months, more regional shipping traffic from the Gulf to the Mediterranean and vice versa, and lower passages of mega ship from and to China, minus 15%. The pandemic has also demonstrated, I think, the weaknesses of the global supply chain. When an industry is based on an interdependent supply chain, for example, from China to Europe via the United States, as it is the case of many production chains from textile to cars, a blockage of borders, a blockage in transportation, global logistics, blow up all organizational and production. On the other hand, a more regionalized supply chain, European in our case, present at that moment at least fewer risk, more guarantees, and it's now, I think, also more consistent with the overall trend of world trade. If we look at Europe, this process is also on the way. At the beginning of the crisis, Europe was close to break down, but then a sort of good solution, we can say, good solution was found. The recovery plan is not only important from the financial point of view, it's also beneficial to the European integration process with a positive impact on the European internal market and on the completion of the European banking union, which is quite important for an important and leading bank as Intesa Sanpaolo is. I feel that we will also see a boost for the European supply chains. Many elements, therefore, push toward a sort of regionalization with the three prevailing areas, Asia, Europe, and America, open and integrated within, or we can say more open and integrated within, but more competitive and protectionist with each other than it was in the past. We have clear signs that also Europe is moving in this direction. And the terms reshoring, which is one of the three R's of the last session, together with resilience and repurposing, I mean, the term reshoring should also be read in this perspective, the perspective of a more regionalization. Nothing human is irreversible or immutable, but for some years, I think that the mark of this pandemic will remain clearly visible in the economy of our countries and the geography of the international economic relation. These are only welcoming remarks. I stop here. I think I have already stolen enough time from today's speakers. I think we should now move to the opening speech of Mr. Profumo. Let me just say that he has been, Mr. Profumo has been a professor, a university professor, university rector, and Italian Minister of Research and University in the government, in the Monti government, before his current position as chairman of the Italian banking foundations and president of Compagnia di Sanpaolo, which is the main shareholder of Intesa Sanpaolo Bank. So for his personal history and sensibility, I'm sure he will stress another key issue, which is also the title of his opening speech, the need of investing more in education and new skills as a way to deal with this complexity and uncertainty that we have all around. So Mr. Profumo was unable to connect now at that moment, but he has already recorded his intervention, which will now be played. So thank you very much for your attention, and I hope together with Marc and Henning to see you all in Naples next spring. Marc, I think the floor is back to you.
Thank you, Massimo. Thank you very much for your introductory remark, which I think will fit very well with the conversation we are going to have today, from resilience, reshoring, repurposing of the state, and clearly a modified globalization. So let's now put the pre-recorded speech of President Profumo. Melanie, if I can ask you to put it to you. Great, thanks.
Good morning. I'm pleased to take part in this dialogue of Continents 2020, organized by Reinventing Bretton Woods Committee and by Hamburg Institute of International Economics, the collaboration of SRM from Intesa Sanpaolo banking group. This event was scheduled to take place in Naples, but unfortunately, the COVID-19 pandemic has prevented this from happening. Nevertheless, it has been decided that the conference will still be held in Naples next spring, when hopefully this health crisis will be resolved. Here is the reason why today's program is titled On the Road to Naples Conference 2021, to revolves around the general topic of the new era of change. In fact, it's clear that we are now facing a historical moment and era of significant change. This is why we believe that 2020 will be remembered for a long time. Some have compared with what is happening now to a war, while others have evoked memories of historical plagues that devastated societies and the economies of the past. But the comparisons are always difficult and often inaccurate. As dramatic as they may be, the events we have experienced have not produced the material destruction of a war, but have nevertheless generated the most serious economic crisis and contraction of GDP in the last 50 years on a global level. Several signs tell us that the pandemic has dramatically accelerated trends that were perhaps already underway, and that will lead to lasting changes on a global scale. Several of these aspects will be touched on today's section. Firstly, there will be the topic of connectivity, which is also the main reason why it had been initially decided to hold this conference in Naples. Cities at the center of the Mediterranean and with a port that is an important logistic hub. We know that the pandemic is structurally redrawing the maps and routes of world trade with lasting effects also in the Mediterranean. We have already seen from some previous interventions how a sort of regionalization of globalization is currently underway, with the emergence of commercial routes on a regional scale while global trade slows down. Supply chains are also affected by this phenomenon and are experiencing a reorganization on a regional scale at the expense of the global one. And one of these regional dimensions that are becoming stronger, in addition to Asia and America, is Europe. Perhaps more than other parts of the world, Europe itself will show lasting signs of the effects of this crisis. Last February, at the beginning of the COVID pandemic, the earliest responses of EU countries with unilateral border closures and the fights over health equipment supplies, together with a division between the North and South, and signs of anti-EU nationalisms have posed serious risks of the EU project and the stability of the continent. But then came a stronger response. The Recovery Fund is an historic event for the European Union, not only because of the resources made available, but also because of the elimination of an ancient taboo, the creation of the common debt. This will lead to an inevitable strengthening, which sooner or later will follow, also for the European integration process and its market. And the stronger Europe will also be capable of promoting in the international agenda the key issues of the future. I am thinking of climate change, sustainable and the energy challenges, which are at the core of the historic change we are facing. But if this dimension that I believe briefly touched on, trade, connectivity, sustainability, strengthening European integration, are clear examples of how this pandemic is accelerating global transformation. There is one issue that I consider even more important, and on which the real change is at the stake: education and new skills. I believe the dramatic events and trends we are witnesses this year clearly highlight three essential elements which characterize our time. First, the main one is uncertainty. We come from a past that was characterized by greater certainty and security, both in the international framework and in the economic and social context. Now, all this has changed and uncertainty dominates. Second, the second element is that of the speed of change and processes. In the past, we had been used to slower changes that allowed adaptation time, while today changes are swift and very fast, and they follow the rapid pace of technology and innovation. The third element is represented by the agility of responding to uncertainty and quick changes. It is only through this swiftness, paired with the flexibility and interdisciplinary approach, that solutions can be found to the new challenges laying ahead. The health crisis is a clear example of this. Of course, we need first the science and medical research to find cures and a vaccine, but in the meantime, every solution will inevitably and directly affect other aspects of our life: work, family life, social organization, economy, political instability. Holistic is the term often used to describe this approach, which has the advantage of keeping together a series of components, different but so interdependent that acting on one affects all the others. What we need is exactly this strategy, where a great number of elements are encompassed. Managing complex systems has always been challenging, but at the moment, this seems even more difficult, as the governance of complexity is now even more complex than ever. So how do we need to deal with this complexity? We must focus on human capital and education, with special attention to the acquisition of new competences with an interdisciplinary approach. We come from a static and notion-based approach to school, university, and vocational training, while we are rapidly moving towards a future in which education must necessarily be dynamic to adapt, change, and where lifelong learning is the key to moving forward. What is becoming more and more important is to learn how to carry on our education permanently and how to use new technologies, big data, artificial intelligence, to accelerate learning processes and methods. Only a society that invests heavily in education at the three essential levels of school, university, and vocational training will be able to have the human capital necessary to lead these processes. This is also the best guarantee to safeguard our model of democratic society based on values and rights. Democracy also increasingly requires that the citizens are aware, informed, and trained. This is the real challenge of the future. It was already so before, but the COVID-19 pandemic pushed dramatically the ongoing processes. This is not the moment, nor would there be time to further analyze this topic. Clearly, my personal history as a university professor, university rector, and minister of research at university in the Monti government make me very sensitive and attentive to the issues of education and new skills. Also, for the training for the Italian Banking Foundation, which I'm president over alongside the Compagnia di Sanpaolo, this is a central theme to which we allocate considerable economic resources complementary to those of the state. We are convinced that this is the real challenge on which the future is played out. And not only to manage cyclical crises, the health of economic, but also to guide future development in a structural way. To conclude, this is the key message I want to leave as a contribution to this event. Only if we invest economic resources and we push collective commitment in improving human capital resources and adapting education to new challenges, will we be able to tackle the new era of change by steering processing without being overwhelmed by them. I think it should also be, at the European level, a key priority to invest the resources of the next generation EU funds. I hope these introductory remarks can be a stimulus for the next session, and I wish you all a fruitful conference. I really hope we can all meet in Naples next spring for Dialogue of Continents 2021. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Profumo. We all look forward to meeting Naples. I think you set the stage for our conversation this morning about that pandemic is really redrawing the map of connectivity. And this is clearly what we are going to discuss today in this morning session, the economics of connectivity, building bridge for a sustainable future.